Boys and girls, listen carefully. How many of you have a dog at home? A couple of you? Well, when I was young, I very much wanted a dog. And I was finally given a dog, and I had a lot of time that I spent with my dog when I was young. I'm going to tell you a story of many dogs and some children. This story happened a while ago, 95 years ago, about this time of year, in a town that gets very cold. If you look at the front here, we see the inside of a cabin, we see snow outside, and that's very similar to where this story took place. It's a story of trouble, but also a story of victory. Way up far in the north, where it barely gets light during the daytime, in the middle of winter, there was a town with one doctor. This doctor's name was Dr. Welch. And Dr. Welch had a problem. Each and every day, more children he would care for would become sick. They became sick with a bacterial disease called diphtheria that would make it difficult for them to breathe, and as the bacteria would produce more and more toxins or poisons in their body, it would cause them pain, trouble, and each day some of the children in this town would die. Dr. Welch wished that he could help. He did what he could. But as that bacteria would grow and spread to other children and people in that town, more and more became sick, more and more became poisoned from the output of the disease that they were fighting. Friends, children, you and I are infected with a disease. Something that is awful. Something that is so throughout us, so in us, that step by step, it takes over. It poisons us. It causes us to do things that we shouldn't. That poison will ultimately kill both of us. I'm talking about sin. Something in our life that is not pleasing to our parents. Something that's not pleasing to God. In fact, in Romans chapter 5, Verse 12, we read the words, "Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned." What's more is that the father of that sin, the father of that poison, is Satan and the devil himself. His desire is to steal, to kill, and to destroy, as we read about in John chapter 10. He wants you and I poisoned. He wants us to do the things that will poison ourselves so that our end will be an end of death. He wants each of us dead. Sometimes we think that there's no hope. Sometimes we think that there's nothing we can do to change the bad habits that we have. Sometimes we think that our desires are too strong and the things we do grip us so tightly that there's nothing that we can do. Back in that cold winter town, Dr. Welch felt stranded. He was so far away that during the winter time, there's no chance that any ships could come to that town because of the ice on the lakes and on the ocean in that area. There were no roads there. There were no trains there. He was stuck, and yet more and more children became sick each and every day. He sent a message out by radio saying that we need medicine that can counteract, that can stop the poison that is being caused by the diphtheria bacteria in the children. But yet, there is no possibility for it to come by ship. At that time, even airplanes were useless in that cold weather and over those distances. The only possibility was what the people in Alaska tried to help save the children and that town way out in western Alaska. The closest medicine was 1,000 miles away in Anchorage, and immediately was sent by train to a town of Nenana, up farther north. From there were more than 20 teams of dogs that were spread out to take that medicine and transfer it to the next team of dogs to carry it on its westward journey. It arrived in the morning on the train and was sent off immediately on the first dog team. The dog team encountered cold weather, 60 degrees below zero by Fahrenheit, over 50 degrees below zero by centigrade. The dogs traveled through the cold, through the wind, through the snow. One dog team would transfer it to the next dog team, and they were carrying this bundle of 20 pounds of medicine on towards the sick town that was stuck. Each team had their own troubles. They continued on day and night, passing it from one to the next. One of the team drivers, Sapella, thought of his own daughter, who was sick with diphtheria, as his dogs carried that medicine farther and farther. 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles, the dogs were carrying the medicine to those children. Then, not farther than 100 miles from the end of the town, the last dog team was taken up by a strong wind that flipped the whole sled. All the dogs got jumbled and the medicine was lost. They looked around, they found the medicine, they untangled the dogs, had them all ready in their sleds again, and they kept going. But the wind was so strong that it blew so much of the snow into the air that you couldn't even see where you were going, and the dogs could not tell which way to go. But this last team had a very special dog, a dog that was a lead dog, and that lead dog, instead of directing by what it saw, it led the team by what it smelled. And even when there was so much snow so that they couldn't see the way to travel, that lead dog kept pulling and directing that team on and on and on to the end of the 674-mile journey in the middle of winter. At 5:30 in the morning, the dogs team rode into that town with the medicine. Children, we are all in trouble in sin. It is that poison that comes into us, it takes a hold of us, and it leads us to do those wrong things. It leads us to ultimately death. But Matthew 1, verse 23 says, "Behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel," which is being interpreted, God with us. Do you think it was easy for those dogs to run 674 miles, almost 1,100 kilometers in the middle of winter over 5 days? No. Do you think it's easy or a simple thing for God to send his son Jesus to come to this world, to be born, to suffer, to die? No. That's not easy. But that was God's plan. God's plan to send Jesus to come for you and me. That medicine, the medicine that stopped the effect of the poison of the bacteria of diphtheria, has been said to have saved the children of the town of Nome, Alaska. And not only the children, but the 1,700 other people who lived in that town. In the process of bringing that medicine, there were 150 dogs that all helped. And out of those dogs, 4 of them died in the journey. The process of God to bring us salvation also cost the life and the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Isaiah 53 in the Old Testament has these words, starting in verse 4. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet he did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. This is looking forward to what Jesus would do on the cross. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. Jesus is the medicine of that poison in our lives. Yet just because the town of Nome had that medicine in the town does not mean that it healed every one of those children. It was the children who received the injection of that medicine to counteract the poison of the bacteria who are ultimately saved. For those of us, just because a person celebrates Christmas does not mean that they are cleansed from the poison of sin. Christmas is important, but yet, in order for us to be healed, a person needs to accept Jesus Christ, Emmanuel, the gift of God with us. God who will heal us from the poison. Jesus Christ on the cross, a sacrifice for us. John 3:36 says this, He that believeth on the Son hath everlasting life, and that he believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him. It has been said, this is the greatest gift ever given by the greatest gift giver ever known to the least deserving people ever born. Least deserving. Today, the dogs that saved the children of Nome are well known all over. People know about them, and it's a very fascinating and encouraging story. The birth of Jesus Christ is also well known. The medicine that saved those children from the poison of the diphtheria bacteria saved them. Jesus Christ can save you. He can save me from the poison of sin in each and every one of our lives. Children, I like the story of those 150 dogs that went to carry medicine to save the children of Nome. And as we think about that and think about what it means to be a Christian, I want to wish each and every one of us Merry Christmas. Amen.